Mueller heads to Capitol Hill for that high-stakes hearing. The big question, what will it mean for impeachment? Mueller's moment. The special counsel about to face off with lawmakers and answer questions about the Russia investigation for the first time. 5 hours of testimony about to start on Capitol Hill. What will Mueller say about Russia, the president, and possible crimes? We're live in the hearing room.
Rare storm rocking Cape Cod, hit by an EF1 tornado. Boats pummeled by rough waves.
This is insane!
And now out west, double trouble, monsoon storms moving in, and the new fire threat, where a state of emergency has been declared.
Breaking news, Puerto Rico's embattled governor now expected to give in to protesters and resign after that massive uprising.
Bison attack. A 9-year-old recovering right now after a wild animal charges her in Yellowstone National Park. The new warning this morning.
Stunning twist. These two missing teens now suspects in that international murder mystery, accused of killing an American woman and her boyfriend. The manhunt underway where police think they could be.
And Selma Strong, actress Selma Blair's new message, nearly a year after being diagnosed with MS.
I have to say I have more joy now than I ever have.
How so many of you are helping her stay strong, and how her son keeps her laughing.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And we do say Good Morning America. All I can say is Selma Strong. She is something else. We'll have an update.
She is. Looking forward to that. It is a consequential day on Capitol Hill. Let's take a look at the hearing room where Robert Mueller will appear today. He's going to take questions for the first time from 2 House committees on his nearly 2-year investigation into Russia's interference in our elections and ties to the Trump campaign.
Yeah, lawmakers will be questioning Mueller for 5 hours about his Russia investigation and whether President Trump obstructed justice by trying to interfere with that investigation.
We have team coverage across Washington from the White House to the hearing room where our senior congressional correspondent Mary Bruce is going to start us off. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Robin. Well, in just a short time, Robert Mueller will be sitting right here behind me, facing off with lawmakers in this high-stakes hearing, now 2 years in the making. Over 5 hours, he will be grilled by 63 lawmakers. For Democrats, this is a chance for them to bring the Mueller report to life, to show the American people what they feel is the president's vast misconduct. For Republicans, the opposite, a chance to highlight what they believe clears the president. Either way, what we see in this room here today will likely be a turning point in the fight to impeach.
This morning, the moment Democrats have been waiting for.
For many Americans, just learning what's in the report will be a revelation.
Late yesterday, Democrats squeezing in one more practice session, a mock hearing.
Preparations are going well. We're taking it very seriously.
Mueller's testimony this morning could be their last best chance to convince the public to support impeachment.
The President and the Attorney General have systematically lied to the American people about what was in that report.
Mueller did not find any criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia, but he did lay out 10 acts of potential obstruction by President Trump. Democrats today are hoping Mueller will say if he would have charged Trump with a crime if it weren't for the Justice Department rule against prosecuting a sitting president.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
During 2 years of investigation, Mueller stayed silent, speaking out publicly just once. Today marks the first time he will face questions from Congress since the report was released. By his side today, the aide who was also by his side throughout the investigation, his former chief of staff, Aaron Zebley. Mueller made a request to have Zebley there as a witness, but Republicans raised some concerns. Today, Zebley will be there to advise Mueller, but may be called upon to answer some questions. The Justice Department has warned Mueller to remain within the boundaries of his report, something Mueller already said he would do.
Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report.
Republicans have been preparing too. Their goal, focus on the parts of the report they feel benefit the president.
What's disturbing to me is some of our Democrats have said they actually just want him to read the report so it would come to life. If I wanted to hear Robert Mueller books on tape, I would wait for that to come out.
Now, Mueller is an experienced witness. He is known for his very brief, often just one-word responses. The challenge for lawmakers on both sides here today is going to be drawing out those answers that they're looking for. George.
Okay, Mary, thanks. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, John Karl, our chief justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, for more on this. And Pierre, let me begin with you. We just heard Mary say Robert Mueller is an experienced witness. He's also a reluctant witness today. So how has he been preparing? How far do you expect him to go?
George, good morning. Mueller has been in intense preparation with a small staff from the special counsel's office. Sources tell me in the past, such prep has involved rehearsals with a key focus on the most controversial questions that could be asked. Based on all that work, I think he's prepared to lay out what's in his report, which was a nearly 2-year investigation that dominated his life. The stakes are enormous for Mueller's legacy, and he knows it. This is the biggest public appearance he's made since right after the 9/11 attacks when he was the FBI director. He's well aware that whatever he says will be used in some fashion to determine whether the Democrats pursue impeachment of the President of the United States.
And Pierre, some questions about why Aaron Zevley, his chief of staff, is going to be there today. What exactly do you expect from him?
Well, I'm told that he's there for Mueller to confer with if there are some specific questions in areas of expertise that Mueller is less familiar with. He's there as basically backup, George.
Okay, Pierre, thanks very much for being John Carl for more on this. John, the summary of the Mueller report comes out several months ago. The president claimed it exonerated him. Ever since then, dozens and dozens of tweets attacking Robert Mueller, attacking the Democrats for highlighting the report.
George, the president was at it late last night, and already this morning he has tweeted multiple times criticizing Robert Mueller. Look at the latest one. So Democrats and others can illegally fabricate a crime, try pinning it on a very innocent president, and when he fights back against this illegal, treasonous attack on our country, they call it obstruction. Wrong. Why didn't Robert Mueller investigate the investigator? So he is going after Robert Mueller. And George, you have this strange situation where the president has cited Mueller's report and his investigation as vindication, exoneration, saying that it shows no obstruction, no collusion. Obviously, it does not show that. And I expect part of what is happening here is that he knows the Democrats will ask point blank Robert Mueller, did you find no collusion? His answer would likely be no. And when he's asked, did you find no obstruction, his answer would also be no.
And
so
John,
the
president
clearly preparing for that.
The president said he's going to be watching at least a bit today. We could see some live tweeting.
I've got to tell you, he has a very clear public schedule, lots of time. We don't know what he might have on his private schedule, but I expect he will be watching this and watching it closely.
Okay, John, I know you're standing by as well. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, for more on this. Let's just take a big picture, step back a little bit. What are the big things you're going to be watching for today?
Well, first, from the Democrats, I think there are two main goals. Number one is to undermine the comments made by the president about no obstruction, no collusion. That's going to be the easy part. I think part two for the Democrats is trying to get Robert Mueller to even just restate what is in the report. I mean, literally, to be able to read some of the language that is in there, some of the words, undue influence, other words like that.
I want to follow up on it. Do you think he will actually read or force the Democrats to read it?
Look, I think that he will refer to it. I don't think in every question he's going to say, let me pull out the report, and he'll then read from the report. I think he will, in effect, restate some of what's in the report. But it's going to require the Democrats pushing him. He's not going to want to do it. He's not going to want to restate what's in the report. It's going to require some prodding. And I think that from the Republican perspective, you're going to hear longer speeches on their part about concerns they have about the investigation, about the report. Sure, certain questions. The issue is going to be, in my view, do they cross the line? You saw the president's tweets from this morning already attacking Robert Mueller.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. How far do you think they go in actually trying to put Robert Mueller on trial?
That's the thing. So asking about the texts between FBI agents and Strzok and Page, and I think that's all fair game. Talking about how the investigation started, fair game. The minute you start suggesting that Robert Mueller was out to get the president because of
conflicted, which the president has said many times.
Correct. He keeps suggesting that Robert Mueller wanted the FBI job and didn't get it, which appears not to be true. That he had some conflict with his golf club also appears not to be true. If you start going there with a guy like Robert Mueller, who lives and dies by his own integrity, I think you are then running a real risk for Republicans of crossing the line, not just with Robert Mueller, but with the public.
Okay, Dan Abrams, thanks. Our whole team will be joining me for our live coverage of Mueller's testimony starting at 8:15 Eastern. Cecilia?
Okay, George, we're going to turn now to breaking news overseas. Boris Johnson officially becoming the British Prime Minister today, replacing Theresa May. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is outside the Prime Minister's residence at 10 Downing Street with the very latest. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Cecilia. That's right. Another historic day here at 10 Downing Street. In fact, Theresa May is already at Parliament saying her goodbyes. She'll then leave here in a couple of hours, go to see the Queen and officially tender her resignation. Then Boris Johnson also goes to see the Queen and he officially becomes the next leader of Britain. pomp out of the way, let the politics begin. President Trump already giving his full backing to Johnson, telling supporters they call Johnson Britain Trump. Well, I'm pretty sure no one's actually ever called him that, but many people here do liken the two leaders, not always in a flattering way. Johnson already taking a leaf out of the president's playbook with grand talk of raising a slumbering giant that sounds a little bit like, well, make Britain great again. But rhetoric and reality aren't always easy bedfellows. New job, new home, yes, but he's got to do a deal on Brexit and unite this disunited kingdom. Robin?
All right, Ian, thank you. We're going to move to Puerto Rico now, where there are reports this morning that the embattled governor may resign on the heels of all those massive protests. Victor Oquendo is in San Juan and has the latest for us. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Robin. The governor is still in charge, but several news outlets here on the island are reporting he could resign within a matter of hours. ABC News has not confirmed those reports. Once again, late last night, hundreds of protesters taking to these cobblestone streets right in front of the governor's mansion. But this group had a much different tone. They were ready to celebrate. Under normal circumstances, the next in line would be Puerto Rico's Secretary of State, but he resigned in the wake of the profane group chat that was leaked. Now it's the Secretary of Justice who would be the successor. It's her Justice Department that's investigating all 12 people in that group chat, including the governor, for the hundreds of thousands who have been protesting, calling for Ricardo Rosillo to resign for more than a week. This can't come soon enough. George?
Looks like a major change. Okay, Victor, thanks very much. We're going to turn now to the fallout from that severe weather in the Northeast. Violent storms brought a tornado to Cape Cod, pummeled boats with big waves, and in the Midwest, they're facing a major cool down. Ginger's tracking it all from Detroit this morning. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, George. We're only in the upper 50s here. There are still folks in Michigan without power, tens of thousands. That's the 5th day. But as we go into this, it's important to watch that Cape Cod tornado was only the 4th in recorded history since we began recording them back in the 1950s.
This is insane!
An EF1 tornado with winds up to 110 miles per hour tearing into the Massachusetts coast. A scene reminiscent of the perfect storm.
Lines snapping, sails pulling out.
Boats tossed around the harbor, people struggling to keep them anchored.
Oh my gosh.
A water spout swirling off Cape Cod.
Wow.
This motel in Yarmouth near the Cape torn apart, the winds peeling the roof right from the building.
It pulled pieces of the awning off, one at a time, and then it took the whole section of the roof.
When you see what's left from above, miraculous that there were no injuries. This funnel cloud caught on the Pennsylvania and Delaware state line.
There were nearly 200 severe storm reports just in the last 24 hours, but now that front has passed, and we have to focus our attention on the west, where there are more than 40 wildfires, large wildfires burning, including the museum fire that you're seeing there. Flagstaff, Arizona, it's more than 1,400 acres burned. They've got a lot of attention on that because there's up to 5,000 homes that are going to potentially have to evacuate. A couple of them have already had to start, and the weather is not going to help. We've got excessive heat watches that include Fresno, red flag warnings all the way up to Montana. The monsoon has started, so you think, oh, good, that would be great. No, that can cause mudslides and also lightning that starts more fires. Cecilia?
Dangerous conditions out there. Okay, Ginger, thank you. We'll turn now to the manhunt underway in Canada for the killers of a young American woman and her boyfriend. The investigation taking a surprising turn. Police now believe these two missing teenagers are actually suspects. Matt Gutman has more.
A bombshell twist in the hunt for a killer on the loose in Canada.
The RCMP are now considering Cam McLeod and Briar Schmigelski as suspects.
19-year-old Cam McLeod and 18-year-old Briar Schmigelski were feared to be missing after their camper was discovered torched on the side of a highway in Canada on Thursday, an unidentified burned body nearby. A worried Briar Schmigelski's father spoke to Czech TV 2 days ago.
They're just kids on an adventure. Like, they're good boys. Those two boys are still out there. Go find them.
The pair disappeared just days after 24-year-old American China Deese and her Australian boyfriend, 23-year-old Lucas Fowler, were brutally gunned down on a lonely Canadian road just 300 miles away. No longer considered good boys, they're now considered deadly.
Consider them dangerous. Do not approach. Take no action and call immediately 911.
Is there anything that links these two separate events, the Deese and Fowler murders and the death of this unidentified man?
Not that we're aware of right now.
They're the link.
They're the link.
Police believe they first murdered Deese and Fowler by their van, and then 3 days later, the other man. They were last spotted in this 2011 Toyota RAV4, police releasing this photo of the pair in Saskatchewan Tuesday. They now tell ABC News the teens may be in Manitoba, over 2,000 miles away from the location of the murders. Overnight, Deese's brother, through his grief, speaking to GMA, calling for justice.
None of this is going to change not having the most beautiful person in our lives anymore, but I just hope that whoever did this can get what they deserve.
Now, police tell us that they don't have any criminal record. These teens weren't on their radar. They've traveled over 2,000 miles, mostly in rural Canada, but also in national parks, which is why police are urging people to remain vigilant because these two are considered armed and dangerous. And because there's this massive manhunt on, police tell us they could be just one tip away from closing in on them.
Hopefully
Robin.
so. Hopefully so. Okay, Matt, thank you. Now to a huge victory for 9/11 first responders, the Senate passing a bill that will permanently fund their health care, a battle that was championed by Jon Stewart. TJ Holmes is here with more on that. And TJ, so much relief when this bill was passed.
Yeah, so much relief, but still people are wondering, why was this a fight at all? A fund set up to compensate the 9/11 first responders? Well, thanks to this bill now, they may never have to have this fight again.
The heroes of 9/11 finally declaring victory on Capitol Hill. The Senate gallery erupted in applause as the bill that essentially permanently funds care for 9/11 first responders, survivors, and their families overwhelmingly passed 97-2. Survivors cheered, as did their longtime advocate, comedian Jon Stewart. The former Daily Show host even cracked jokes after the bill's passage.
Yes, I think we can all agree I'm the real hero. I'm hopeful that today begins the process of being able to heal without the burden of having to advocate.
Securing the funding wasn't always certain, as Republican Senators Rand Paul and Mike Lee temporarily blocked the bill, raising objections about offsetting the cost.
We whipped your asses. 97-2.
Uproar began weeks ago when Stewart and survivors like Detective Luis Alvarez, who was in the final weeks of his life, spoke before Congress, ripping lawmakers for failing to fully fund the program.
They did their jobs. Do yours.
Now, a bittersweet sigh of relief.
Yes, I cried with John, but that was to exhale. That was to get 18 years of pain and suffering out, and I believe it's out.
And your President Trump is expected to sign the bill, but 343 firefighters died on 9/11. 200 have died since because of health-related issues, and thousands more of those claims. They just continue to get sick. Some aren't even sick right now, might be sick in the next 5 years. So that's why that fund, it was so important to get.
Even a fight after 18 years.
Those two senators, they said this is not the place for fiscal constraint. All the money that's spent up there, this is where you want to put a flag for fiscal constraint.
Yeah.
It's not the place.
Yeah. Thank you, TJ.
You got it, guys.
Also this morning, we have the powerful message from Selma Blair as she faces MS, how so many of you are giving her strength, and her son is doing that as well. But first, let's go back to Ginger, to a state she knows very well. They're in Michigan. Good morning again, Ginger.
Good morning to you. Even though it's chilly this morning, we're going up to the low 80s today, but along the stationary front in the Gulf, there's a tropical development possibility in the next 48 hours of something forming, so we're watching that. The Sunny City is now brought to you by Verizon.
We run right into these crises, and we do not leave until normalcy is restored. We'd been working for days on a site in a storm-devastated area. A family pulled up. It was a mom and her kids. Everything they had been washed away. The only thing that brought any kind of solace was the ability to hand her a device so she could call her family and let them know that she was okay.
There for you when it matters most. And now get a free Samsung Galaxy S10e when you buy one. That's Verizon.
Warmer than yesterday. Yesterday we stayed in the 70s all day long. Today, low to mid 80s with a mix of sun and clouds. Comfortably warm with relatively low humidity. I can't rule out a very isolated midday shower. Most of you, though, will be dry. So again, temperatures climbing out of the 70s this morning and into the lower 80s this afternoon. So really nice. Try to get outside. We're going to do it all over again tomorrow. Waking up to temperatures in the 60s, 86 tomorrow. Redskins training camp starts in Richmond tomorrow. We're dry heading into the weekend, turning a little hotter, 91 by Sunday.
Whole seconds. We'll be right back.
We're K-12, and we're giving families an online option for public education. where schools provide students with the personalized attention they deserve. Students can thrive, find their passion, and learn.